You are now listening to the Bluprint Pod. Get ready for another exciting episode, so sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome back to the Blueprint. It's your boy Muhammad Imam, aka Mivisuals. Today I'm not joined by my co-host Ray. He's got some familial duties and other things to be getting along with. In other episodes, he said he would be a supervillain and he'd be using supervillain powers if he could. So I wouldn't say he's out there saving the world or anything. So yeah, but I'm joined today by a special guest, a cousin of mine and a close friend. Known each other for a few years now, and we've traveled together and had a few different experiences together. But there's a lot more experiences that I want to gain from you and hear about from your perspective as well. You're a teacher. You've worked abroad in 2 different countries now, and obviously worked here as well. And yeah, I just want to kind of hear about all of these things and how it also has influenced your creativity growing up. So yeah, I don't know how you want to be introduced, but Mohammed from Daddy or msmwrites. You want to just give a quick brief introduction?
I'm surprised you didn't call me MSM Speaks. MSM does podcasts.
Okay, well now you're MSM does podcasts.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for having me. Like you said, alhamdulillah. My name is Mohammed. I'm currently working as a teacher in Qatar. I've previously worked in Saudi Arabia. I work as an English teacher. And yeah, alhamdulillah, I also do poetry on the side under the name MSM Writes, which Muhammad loves to make jokes about because of the verb at the end. So I've had MSM Sits, MSM Stands.
Yeah,
But
I'm playing up a new one that's coming up for the next couple of months. For
I'm,
a pretty
I'm, I'm
significant
waiting
event
for
in
it.
your life. Yeah, you're going to be hearing all sorts now. So yeah, just we should wait for that. But yeah, man. So you're a teacher. You're currently in Qatar. But yeah, man. How did you tell us a bit about yourself? Like growing up, how did you come to be a teacher? Was this something that you dreamt about when you were a kid?
I think it's not easy for me to say that I dreamt about it, but it's one of them things where it's always been in the blood of our family, I'd say. Only because obviously we were raised up around the whole madrasa system. So for as long as I've been alive, I've been used to seeing, like, my mom used to have a little madrasa at home, so kids used to come and learn Quran, so I'd support her with that. And then I decided to open up my own little madrasa where I had like these 5 and 6 year olds where I teach them Arabic, reading and writing. And then I'd also go to my ustad, who would always have me as a teaching assistant with him. So I feel like teaching and helping people to learn and to develop has always been around me. But
Mm.
then, if we're being honest, there's not so much of a career that you can make out of teaching people Quran. I guess you can, but I always thought to myself, I'd love to one day go and live in a Muslim country, and I needed to find the subject that I enjoyed most and to make a career out of that.
Mm.
So I always excelled in English, so it just made sense for me to choose that as the subject that I'll dedicate my time and effort to.
So your religious background heavily influenced your desire to teach, you would say. If you didn't have that, do you think you'd be teaching?
I think it's because I was always surrounded by it, and obviously some people are surrounded by something and then they end up getting fed up of it. But
Yeah.
because we were nurtured to know that knowledge was something that you'd have to go out there, search for knowledge, you'd have to pass on that knowledge, and because I was always raised up with that motto of seek knowledge, pass on the knowledge, and I enjoyed it. Whenever you get a little kid who they might be struggling with reading, struggling with writing, and then you get them to a stage where they've actually understood something. That light bulb moment right at the end is the thing that's it's quite addictive as a teacher. And I'm sure if there's any other teachers listening to this, they'll back that up. Like it's quite an addictive moment to have, where you're
Mm.
able to support someone and get them to the point where they've understood.
Right. So, like you mentioned you do poetry a bit earlier on. That's
Mhm.
where we get our little jokes from about your name. So how did that start? Because that's something that you've been doing for a while. You've got YouTube videos up where you're literally a kid wearing kid clothes. You're really smart, but you've been doing it for a long time. So how did that start? And like, who kind of encouraged you to do that? All your influences.
Oh wow, man! If you look through the depths of YouTube, you'd find a video of me doing poetry when I was 12 years old,
Mm.
and bro, I'd have to tell. Like, I didn't even look at the stage.
It's not even that difficult to find, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I think this one was put on private. I think this one was put on private. But
Okay.
is I did not look at the stage once. I was so scared, but then imagine now I'm 25 now, about to be 26 next week, inshallah. So it's been what 14 years or so, and
Mm,
I've just always loved writing. I think it stemmed from listening. I don't like to say this, but it does stem from listening to rap music.
yeah.
And growing up listening to rap music, you always felt like I wanted to be that conscious guy. I listened to Tupac. I probably did not understand a word he was saying, but the guy sounded like he was talking some real stuff. So I thought
Really?
I need to write some rhymes that reflect this. So I've always enjoyed writing rhymes. I had friends that also liked it. So I remember
Mm,
we used to do this thing like we'd want to become battle rappers. So in year 3, year 4, we'd have little battle raps in the playground.
right.
And I think it kind of stemmed from there. And then as you grow up and you start to learn, okay, hold on, I can't go into the music scene. So what is the second option? Start doing nasheeds. So start producing content that has an Islamic twist to it, and then see where that can take me. I ended up, I was in a duo. We
Yeah.
set up a nasheed duo with another cousin of mine, where we did some performances, and you know what? I feel like Alhamdulillah, it set me up really well, man. I was that just young child, fearless, and I feel like I'll be more scared to stand up in front of a stage now than I was back then.
Yeah, of course. I mean, growing up, like I feel like kids are more. I feel like kids are more conscious by it now because of social media and stuff. But growing up, all that wasn't available, so we could go and do what we want without having to worry about it, like getting replayed over and over again.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like now we're at a point where like we feel like everyone's looking at us, like people that are looking up to us, people that are older than us, like that respect us, but they still want to see what we do. So like even things like this, when I started this YouTube channel, I'm like, people are gonna watch me, people are gonna see me, and like I still struggle with it. I've been doing it good now. I think 4 months now. Now that much is ending,
Hmm.
4 months straight with the video every single week and podcast every single week, and I'm still struggling to show my personality, my real personality in videos and stuff. So I'm still trying to keep it like kind of formal, which I feel like is maybe something that isn't helping like our growth and stuff. Like you obviously you know me and people that know me and my personality. I've spoken to my co-host Ray about it before. Like I'm quite a bouncy public personality when you get to know me, but
Yeah, yeah. In a more intimate space, like around.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even when there's more people around and stuff, I'm still pretty pretty much one of the loud guys in the group. But when I'm trying to like show that off in videos and stuff, I feel like it would be more entertaining if I was to show my personality off a bit more. But it's just something that I'm really struggling with because it's not natural sitting in front of a camera and doing it. So it's like I kind of bounce off the energy of other people as well. So sometimes I'm like recording a video, but I don't have the like mental energy. I don't have the kind of when you're in a mood to create something.
Yeah.
Like that's the difference. Like when you're in the mood to write for something, for example, you can just go and write like, freely, and you feel like really comfortable with it.
And I thought
Excuse
that's
me.
that's something that I'm struggling with myself, to be honest. And I was actually going to ask you about that because you've put yourself in a position where you've set the standard of I'm going to be producing content on a week by week basis. If not, I think
Yeah.
you guys put out more than one thing a week, right?
Yeah, we put out a video and a podcast. So yeah, it's not easy at all. I'll tell you that. I've been complaining a bit. I'm trying to stay away from complaining these days, but yeah, I can't lie. Even today, I spoke to two different friends, and I've been complaining a bit
But
about it because
okay, do you think that affects your ability to put out more of your character? Because it's
what do you
it's
mean?
not it's not every week that you're gonna be in a jolly mood where I'm
Yeah, hundred
happy to
percent.
show the most of myself. There might be
Yeah,
some
hundred
weeks where
percent.
you just feel a bit lower or something.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can even give you an example. The last 2 weeks, the last week I did a video where I gave 30 random creative ideas for anyone who's stuck creatively, and I made that video. Do you know why?
Hmm.
Because originally I was gonna make a video about how to make this Marvel movie poster, which I released yesterday, but
Yeah.
I couldn't creatively think of a way to make that post. I was really struggling with it over a few days. So I literally just said, all right, Bonnet, I'm going to leave that video. I'll do it next week. And I'll just make this video where I'm just giving people random ideas to think of. And like, because that's for me, like an easy thing to do, a very easy thing to do. I think like when it comes to creating ideas and generating ideas, I'm very good at that. But like actioning the ideas is when the real work comes in, you know. So like it's not been easy at all. So I ended up writing all those ideas at like 1 a.m. on the Thursday, and then I had to record the video at lunchtime on my lunch break when I'm working my 9 to 5 on the Friday, edit it straight after work, and then release it after work on the Friday. So, and that was hectic. And then yesterday's video, I made the post the night before. I managed to finish it the night before on Thursday, and then I ended up editing it. And the mad thing is, when I edited it, and then I somehow managed to delete a whole video track. That was the whole screen recording of the video. Damn. And I managed to upload that without checking. So I uploaded the video.
Oh, so that was the editing issue that you mentioned.
Yeah, so I uploaded the video, and it didn't have any screen recording in it. So it was literally just me talking to a black screen, and I'm kind of like they're referring to a black screen, and yeah, obviously if you're a viewer, then that doesn't make for good viewing, you know. So I had to like. This is after a full day of work, and I recorded it on the same day, and I edited it on the same day, and I uploaded it on the same day again. It was after a full day, and I hadn't eaten all day, so I had to go and eat. I was about to eat, and then I noticed that the video was a black screen. I just happened to have a look because my friend commented on the video, and the funny thing is, he commented on the video without watching it. I could tell because he was like, "This is a really insightful video."
Great video, man. I really like the visuals that you used.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, "This is a really insightful video. I enjoyed it." And I looked at the video, and I was like, "Oh my days! There's a black screen in the whole video."
And my visuals coming through with them black screens, yeah. I like it. I like it. Progression, right there.
Yeah. I was like, you guys can use your imagination, but boy, it got to like 9
You
p.m.
know what? You should have pretended that you meant that, man. This is the blueprint right there. I've been teaching you. You should tell your audience, I've been teaching you guys to be creative. Well, here's a video. Here's me talking. You be creative in terms of picture it how you want. Nah, you should have run with it, man. You should have run with it.
Did you ever read the Goosebumps books when you were younger? The Goosebumps, the horror series.
I've always known of them, but I haven't actually looked into them properly. No.
You know, the guy's still writing those books. He's called R.L. Stein. Basically, the books are like is a horror story basically, but it's for kids. And this guy in his Twitter profile, by the way, he's called R.L. Stein. He says on this Twitter profile, "My job is to horrify kids or terrify kids or something."
I'm surprised he's not cancelled, man.
He doesn't give a damn. But in the books, it's like there's like a storyline. Yeah, I mean storyline, but at the bottom of every few pages, it will give you like an option, so you can go to like page 67 or page 38, and then it will take you from there. So it's very interesting because
that's quite cool.
He's basically telling you to make a decision. So you know when you're playing games like an RPG game, and it tells you like you can either go to this decision or this one, or even in FIFA Career Mode nowadays when you're making a sign and you see that it gives you like
it gives you options.
So he's basically he did that from time ago, like so he was doing that in books. So it's interesting because he's like, all right, you can go and go to this page, and then if you make the wrong choice, you'll basically die, or something will happen to you, or one of your friends will die. And like this is in kids' horror stories, so it's weird how that was very popular, but it's actually really interesting. So yeah, apparently that's what I'm doing to my viewers as well. But yeah, man.
See, I would note that down and suggest it to my students here, but I can imagine just getting the response of Mr. Muhammad suggested books about jinns to us, and gotta get cancelled. In
a Muslim country, you're gonna be back home real quick, huh? Back in East London.
It's so funny, but the cultural sensitivities over here are nuts. Like you don't seem to realize how much of a different world we live in the UK. I was
let's hold that thought for a bit later on, though. Okay, I'll talk about that a bit. But yeah, man.
Cool.
So I had to then go back to the video I had to put the screen recording back in it and edit it all back in at 9 p.m. and then re-upload it. And this is like a 700 megabyte file that I had to upload. It took another like 30 minutes to upload. So boy, I can't lie, it's not been easy at all, man. So
is it up there now? Yeah.
yeah, it's up there. And then obviously this is a new channel, so obviously the views and stuff aren't gonna be high. So like over the last 4 months, when I'm looking at the stuff, I'm just like I'm putting all the effort in, and I'm like killing myself, like breaking my back for it. And then I'm like seeing the outcome, it gets very demotivating, and that demotivation, it just really saps your creative energy, because when you're demotivated, you're not gonna create anything interesting. Like even if you force it, you're still gonna be struggling. So sometimes I'm like, is it worth it killing myself like this? But I have to like constantly remind myself to be patient and like just think of the long game,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but then you don't know what video is gonna be the one that suddenly makes the whole channel take off.
Yeah.
And you might end up getting into the right circles, finding itself into the right people who are going to end up wanting to go back and see, okay, what has this guy done previously? And you've already got a bank of work there. So although the views might be demotivating now, but like you said, it's the long game that you're looking forward to. It's not something that you're not looking for that. Well, you are looking for that instant gratification, but at the same time, the internet it's unpredictable, man.
It's very unpredictable.
You will put out a video with the right thumbnail, with the right clickbait title, and that's it. That's your channel gone. So
yeah, so it's strange, man. It's strange because I'm like, I feel like the penny will drop at some point, but I feel like it will happen in like a year's time or something. And like just getting there in the meantime, like just uploading consistently and frequently, but still maintaining a level of quality, is not been easy at all. So I'm really trying to think of ways to work a bit more smart instead of like working hard. So like even this podcast, for example, no one's traveling at the moment. People aren't commuting. Like who's listening to podcasts really? So we're thinking about like taking a break from the podcast as well, and then like focusing more on things that are a lot more relevant at the moment, like TikToks, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. Like a lot of these more portrait medium, like short form media, where it's like Snapchat basically, but you go and post it, and you can like a lot of people like edit them heavily, but they just make them in such a way that is suited for those platforms.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're thinking we're gonna try and move towards, because like you can work consistently hard, but if the growth is clearly somewhere else, then you gotta be smart about it and think about where you want to cut your losses,
Yeah, and just capitalize on what's actually trending right now.
So yeah, did you read a lot then? Because I read a lot when I was a kid, so that's where my creativity comes from. I think I read a lot, and I had a lot of time. Even though I grew up in a big family, I had a lot of time for myself somehow. I don't know. Maybe I just managed to find like little pockets in the house where I'll just go do my thing.
I could just picture you in the corner, just.
Little Mohammed. But yeah, obviously, like when you're in a big family, you want to have your alone time, because you get up to a point where like I need some time for myself as well. And so I think naturally, me obviously I was like the oldest boy as well, so I had a big say in things. So if I told them I need some alone time, or obviously I wouldn't tell them that. I'll just say piss off. but they do it, and I'll have that alone time. So it's kind of how I grew up, and like most of that alone time before technology really became popular for us at our age, like with smartphones, BBM, and all that stuff, MSN. I was reading a lot, and even like making toys for myself, like out of things like paper and stuff. So yeah, I was a bit of an origami expert, I would say. I'm joking.
Okay, that's a skill that I didn't know.
No, I'm trying rubbish. I used to cut out papers, and do you remember Bionicles? The toys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, because I always used to see the adverts and stuff, and I used to think, these things are cool, innit? So I used to get the advert at the Argos magazine and see it, but I would never be able to buy it. So I used to just go and make my own out of paper.
Argos sold us the biggest dreams, man.
Yeah,
I've heard they've discontinued the catalog now, though.
I think it's all online now, but I'm not sure. But I'm still surprised Argos is still around, to be honest. But,
yeah, for real. There's certain places they're just history, man.
When you think about it now, like everything Argos can offer, Amazon has.
Yeah, and I think we're living in an online world. Yeah.
So like, but the funny thing is, you can still go to all those shops and buy stuff. So I guess that's the thing, because in Amazon you have to wait for the delivery, and sometimes it might be delayed as well. So it's interesting how all of that has evolved. So
See,
yeah, let's go back.
I'm wondering
Yeah,
now when did that transition happen? Because now my
gradually.
first no, because it's like my first thought whenever I want to buy something is let me get it off Amazon.
Yeah.
That's my first thought. We've actually become lazy buyers, man. Who's gonna bother going to the shops if you can
But I
just
mean, it's not lazy; it's convenience. Like, who cares? I mean, if you have the money and you don't have the time, you're gonna pay for convenience, you know.
true.
So, like, even with videos, I've been trying to hire an editor. I've had one person edit a couple of videos, but I've kind of been thinking about it because he's a young guy, and so I'm trying to like train him up a bit. But
Yeah,
obviously, when you're dealing with a young person, there's a bit of they're not professionals, so they're not gonna show 100% professional behavior. Like, they're not gonna be always on time. They're not always gonna like communicate when they need to communicate, you know. So
yeah.
like, these are things that you learn over time, and even myself, like, obviously I've been working full time for the last going on 6 years now. In September will be 6 years. So in the beginning I definitely wasn't speaking. If I had a problem, I'll just keep it shut. I'll try and figure it out by myself. But if I didn't figure it out, I'll just keep it shut and like try to ignore my problem. So a lot of younger people do, you know.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah, man.
part of the growth, though, isn't it? It's part of the growth. Yeah.
But back to the point I was making. Did you read much when you were younger then?
Oh, definitely, man. I was that kid that would get in trouble where my mum would come in and say, "Stop reading." She'd switch off the light, and then I'd just try to find a certain way of reading. I remember
Yeah.
I used to wake up with a book on my face. Like, I know I read a
No
lot.
way.
Yeah,
You're
well,
that bad, huh?
no, I read a lot, man. But do you know what though? Now that I look back, I'm disappointed in myself because I haven't read as much since then. As much as I am an English teacher, I feel like when I went to university and I'm here doing an English degree, the amount that we were expected to read, it just got to a point where it put me off reading. It put me off reading. And I think ever since then, I graduated in 2016. So it's been 5 years nearly since I graduated. I've just not been able to get into reading for leisure. I've not been able to. I've done a lot of reading in terms of reading for professional development, reading for work purposes. But in terms of just sitting down and reading a book just for the fun of reading a book, I cannot tell you the last book that I read for fun.
Really? So you got some real PTSD from the education then?
100%, man.
That's funny, man. Because I was gonna talk about education and creativity as well. So, and you've literally you like to tell me that you haven't had a break from education ever.
Yeah, I've not left the school. I've not left the school environment. Which is I don't even know what to make of that because I really I would love to go and try my hand at working in a different setting just to see how I will do surrounded by I don't know, just different resources, different facilities, different types of people. I'd love to be around it. But to be honest, working in a school, it has been holistic in itself. I'm dealing with different types of parents. You don't know what you're going to get. You enter into a classroom, you've got kids from all sorts of backgrounds, people with different issues. You're dealing with your colleagues, you're dealing with your managers, and every manager seems to have their own manager. And then it comes down upon you as a teacher. So I have to say, as much as I've been in a school environment for my whole life, bro. There's a lot of perks, man. I've never worked in August ever. I've
Wow.
never ever worked in August in my life.
Is that your favorite month then?
Yeah, 100%. I've never done a work in August ever. Another
That's
thing,
crazy.
the holidays are amazing,
Yeah.
and no 2 days are the same. And also just that contact that you have with the students and being able to influence them and just the communication and the conversations that you can have with them. It doesn't get boring. I have to say, it doesn't get boring.
Here's the symptoms of being a teacher who enjoys his job,
Yeah.
guys. So you can tell it's a running joke with us in our group that he's always preaching about this, but it's purely out of his heart. So we let him have
But,
it.
but do you know what? Do you know what? Within that group, I've convinced two others to also get into teaching. So
Yeah,
I feel like
exactly.
after I'm done being a teacher, I need to go into being a salesman.
Yeah, some kind of consultant, teaching consultant. But yeah, so let's go back to you growing up. So what kind of books did you read then?
Oh, okay. I
Did you read
read.
any comics or anything, or
Nah, I don't know what
fiction,
it is.
non-fiction?
I think anything which is sci-fi related, anything which is superheroes, and I don't know why, but I've never been able to get into it. Even all these Marvel, DC movies right now, I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm crap when it comes to that stuff, man. I don't know anything about them.
Mm.
I've tried my hardest to get into them, but I don't know. I feel like me personally, I've always liked some things that I could relate to, or something, a story which I could feel a part of. So I've always liked the Alex Rider series.
Yeah. I used to bring that as well.
Yeah, love the Alex Rider series. I remember reading a couple books by Benjamin Zephaniah. A lot of people know him
Okay.
for his poetry, but he's done quite a few interesting young adult novels.
Have you seen Peaky Blinders, by the way?
Peaky Blinders. I've watched the
Yeah.
first couple of seasons. Yeah.
You know he's in it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He comes in randomly at certain points and just does a bit of poetry and then just disappears into the distance.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because his son, I think his son is meant to be one of the. He becomes one of the boys in it, one of the Peaky Blinders, basically. So in the show, obviously it's not his son in real life, but yeah, it's just funny how that was so random to me when I watched it. I was like, what is this guy doing in Peaky Blinders, man?
he's a legend, you know.
absolutely.
When it comes to the literature scene, he's a big name. He's a big name out there.
Absolutely.
He's done a lot to push the exposure of the BAME community within English literature. So I have to say, got to give him his props, man.
I wonder if I could get him on the podcast. That would be an amazing guest for me personally.
Yeah.
Is he the one that wrote? What was that poem?
Are you thinking of Half
Half-Caste,
No,
yeah.
that's John Agard.
Oh yeah, John Egan.
Different brother with dreads.
Can't blame me for getting that wrong. But yeah, man. So you read a lot of Benjamin Zephaniah, Alex Rider. What else?
Oh, I don't know if have you read the Darren Shan series?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that was sci-fi fantasy. Like that was a bit more fantasy than
That was a bit more fantasy, but I don't know, man. One of my friends just suggested that I think it was Cirque du Freak or something like that. Yeah. For some reason, I just really like that series. I don't know what it is that
But
I
you know what it
identify
was,
with.
yeah? It was based in a realistic kind of way. So he's not talking about vampires in a weird sense, or like they're going around like only sleeping in the night and killing people in the daytime, or like being like Twilight vampires. Like the vampires in that was like they were part of a circus, and then like this guy got bitten then by a spider or something, so you had to give him his blood. So like it was written in a very realistic way. That's what I really like about him.
There was a story to it, and the vampires were given they were given a character.
Yeah, exactly. That author's like, have you seen the Demon Artist series? There's another. It was like his other series with like demons. Even that was written in such a way that like, the demons were they came from another realm, but it was like very interesting how like realistic they were. And he made them seem very real and physical. You know, that's what I liked about that author.
Yeah, I might need to look into some of his other stuff.
I don't know if I would enjoy it now, or even if you would. But I don't know, man. This is like a thought I have every now and then. All these things that we see as like nostalgia. I definitely wouldn't enjoy Alex Rider as much now if I was to read it.
You know, they created a TV show of it.
Yeah.
Recently, but then, oh man, it killed it for me. Like I watched it and I just thought, yeah, this wasn't I didn't get the same adrenaline rush that I got when I was reading through the books. It just didn't feel right.
There was a film as well, and that film was trash.
Oh yeah, they did that, the Stormbreaker film.
Yeah.
I think what's his name? Jimmy Carr was in it.
Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, Jimmy Carr was in it. He played the villain. He played the villain in it. Yeah.
Jimmy Carr was the villain. I remember watching it, but I didn't know of Jimmy Carr at the time when it came out. So yeah, now if I look back at it, I think I'll just laugh because Jimmy Carr was the villain. His jokes are
sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm not gonna try the laugh. I'm not gonna.
You started it. Go on, finish it, man.
How does it end? It goes.
I'm joking. Don't. Yeah, so Jimmy Carr, the comedian, is very, very controversial. His jokes are villainous, but I don't know about his character. So, like, how would you say that reading those books and stuff affected your creativity and influenced you, like in a writing perspective, from a writing perspective?
I think, to be honest, I don't think the reading the novels is what influenced me. I have to say, and again, I have to come back to it. I feel like my biggest influence in terms of poetry and in terms of rhymes would have to be rap music. Yeah, that's the honest truth. Just because I always like, you know the thrill of just rapping lyrics from the beginning to the end.
Yeah,
like I've been able to flow with the artist, and then for me it was just like I loved that. I loved the intricacies of the rhymes and the rhythm, and one thing rhyming with another thing, and then the flows that they come out with. It just always seemed quite cool. And then the more that I grew up, I felt more inclined to rhyme. Like even now, when I write my poetry, for some reason, I always make it rhyme. There's always rhymes within it. I can't do poetry without rhymes. Not because I'm the type of person that says, "Oh, every poem has to rhyme." No, but it's just I like the process of delivering that rhythm along with the actual words itself. So I'd say the reading, I think it influenced more my creative writing. So I used to like writing short stories as well. I didn't really share them much, but I feel like it influenced that. And just my level of description, the detail of my descriptions, my imagery in my writing. So I think it influenced that more so than my actual poetry.
Okay, so let's move on to education. You briefly mentioned how reading for education was something that was forced on you for a good probably 15 years, huh?
Yeah, for a very long time, man.
That's giving you some serious PTSD. But in terms of education growing up, how do you feel like that affected your creativity? Do you feel like it was something that was pushed, or like in terms of artistic expression, and like do you feel like it was nurtured, or because I feel like a lot of people that are seen as disruptive people in classroom settings and stuff usually tend to be the most creative ones, which is interesting to me. I just experienced that like everyone that I knew that like was someone that was regularly getting sent out of the class and stuff like that, when they came to like drama, for example, they were like the best actors there.
No, I agree.
They came up with the craziest, like, the best ideas and stuff. So like that's interesting to me.
I actually witnessed that firsthand as a teacher. There was this one kid whilst I was working in Saudi Arabia. So you can imagine this kid, firstly, English isn't his first language. Arabic is his first language. And he was very, very extremely disruptive to the point where he wasn't actually in my class and he was moved into my class just because of how much he annoyed the other teacher. And with this kid, as a teacher, I always thought there must be some sort of access point for this kid. I'm going to find something that this kid likes. And I made it a personal mission to find something that this kid will enjoy. And the day when it came, I was really, really shocked, man. We were doing a poetry lesson, and we were just talking about home. We were just talking about what home means to them, and trying to write a poem based on home, their feeling of home. It could be their physical home. It could be their metaphorical understanding of home. And then this kid sat there and wrote like the most beautiful piece of poetry in terms of what could have been produced by him. And I just thought to myself, I had no idea this boy had it in him. Like
Did you write it in English?
yeah, he wrote it in English. Yeah, he wrote it in English. Like, and he was so invested in writing this poem. And to me, I just thought, wow, that in itself was what I would like to do as a teacher, is to find access point for students, but also to give them that platform to showcase their individuality. Because I didn't know he was capable of that. And I'm sure nobody else gave him the opportunity of actually trying to do something like that. So I feel like that's another thing that helped me as well when I was a student, being able to, I think poetry provided that escape, provided that creativity. And we used to have these poetry workshops that we used to do after school. So as an English teacher now, I feel like sometimes by giving students the opportunity to write creatively, there's a lot of power in the words that a child can produce when they just speak their mind, basically speak their mind. Sometimes what they can't communicate verbally, they're communicating it on a paper, and they just need to be given the opportunity to actually produce that work.
It's interesting. So I want to talk a bit more about your experiences abroad and stuff. But in terms of teaching, I want to know like your journey through teaching as well. Obviously, you said from a young age you were helping in your family madrasa, for example, which is obviously for us like basically religious school where you learn Arabic, religious studies and stuff. And then that kind of evolved into obviously you having a passion for English, and that eventually led you to become an English teacher. And obviously now a wider, you did primary school and secondary school as well. So you've had a very broad experience in teaching from all over the place in your school, in other schools, the school that you actually went to.
That's right. Yeah.
And obviously abroad as well. So I want to know like what kind of, how do you feel like you've like developed as a teacher, your journey through teaching? Do you feel like you've gained a lot of skills, or do you feel like you've practically been doing the same thing that you've had from the ideas that you've had from the start of becoming a full-time teacher? Just to clarify that a bit more, in terms of your teaching style, do you feel like that's changed much, or has that evolved? Like the way you plan lessons and stuff, how does that work? And
I
do you
think
feel like you've had any like serious lessons you've learned? So yeah, just teaching styles and like any serious lessons you learned that you failed, for example, and what you think other people should do differently.
I think in terms of teaching style, the more that I've become confident in the classroom, the more I've been able to express my personality within my teaching styles. And I think if you think back to your teachers, some of the best teachers that you've had, I'm sure, were the ones that were able to express their passion for their subject in a way that they were comfortable, and then that
Hmm.
eventually passed on to you as a student. Well, if you think back to your best teachers,
Yeah.
so I feel like when I first started, obviously when you first start as a teacher, there's a lot of you're being observed, you might feel judged, and I think I suffered a lot from imposter syndrome, where I thought to
Right.
myself, am I really supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be teaching these kids? Am I good enough to be teaching these kids? And I don't know what that came from. Maybe it came from the ideal image of a teacher that I had in my mind. And I always
Yeah.
thought to myself, this is such a massive responsibility that I hold. Am I actually capable of doing this? And I think you kind of learn to overcome that. So the more that I became familiar with these students, the more that I started communicating with these kids, and I think having had the experience to work within my own area first. So thankfully, when I finished A levels, um, whilst I was at university, I was given the opportunity to work as a teaching assistant and then as a cover supervisor within the school that I went to myself. So that was really good because I was given the chance to have a look at education from a different side and also deal with students who are basically going through the same thing that I went through myself. These are students literally they're living in the same area. A lot of them come from similar backgrounds. So at first, that made the imposter syndrome seem a lot worse, just because I thought I was in their position not too long ago. Why? How
Mm.
comes I'm suddenly teaching them? What have I got to give them? And without discriminating against ourselves, in my head, I was always surrounded by white teachers.
Yeah.
So and because of that, you always had this image of perfection of throughout primary school, the majority of my teachers were white females. When I went to secondary school, my English teachers, and up until now, English is predominantly female dominated.
Hmm.
And then when we go to female dominated, it's predominantly white females. So to be a brown Muslim man working within an English department, it's not common. So I think the more I started to believe in myself, I thought, okay, I've got the subject knowledge. I wouldn't have been placed into this position unless I did well in this subject, unless I actually excelled in the subject. So when I overcame that barrier, that mental barrier, I think that's when my teaching style started to change. Now I can approach things, I can have these discussions a lot easier. I can raise up questions. I'm not worried too much about what other people may think or how I may be perceived as a teacher, and I'm more concerned about how can I access the students that are in front of me. So I think my teaching style has definitely changed, and I feel like that change has been as a result of me overcoming my own mental barriers and just looking at the kids for what they are.
Interesting, because I've got like obviously I've been doing graphic design for the last 6 years as well, and I've been doing a lot of creative stuff my whole life basically. And like once when I started this, like this is still something that I'm struggling with myself. Like why, even for example, yesterday I dropped a video making how to make a minimal poster. There was a part of me that said keep it minimal because if you complicate it too much, you're not gonna look like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Like like I've spoken to you before about like yeah I kind of want to go into education myself, and this is kind of why I started the Bluprint, because I want to educate people. I've already encouraged a lot of people, like I've already encouraged a lot of people to pursue their creative passions, and I've even got one person who's regularly still communicating with me, and he's built up quite an impressive portfolio and client base. And I was the person that I can proudly say I was the person to start him up. Like I gave him everything he needed when he started, all the advice and guidance and knowledge that I already had. And
yeah,
I kind of saw that, and I kind of wanted to build that more in other people as well. So that's kind of why I wanted to start the Blueprint, and that's where I am now. But it's funny because I still deal with that kind of creative imposter syndrome as well. But it's funny because we've had a psychotherapist on the show before, and she was just telling us about like self-doubt and all these things. Like these just come from an idea of everything's got to be right, but it's also kind of a good thing that you have that self-doubt, because if you didn't, you'd probably settle on your morals and your values, and you probably wouldn't challenge yourself to think of different ways of doing things and developing your own style.
No,
So
agreed,
it's kind
agreed.
of a good thing. It's like a survival instinct as well, you know.
Yeah, it is,
So
because sometimes you need that barrier, because if you don't overcome that barrier now, you don't want it to come to you later on in life where you think to yourself, okay, you start to question yourself then. So I guess having a early life crisis is better than having a midlife crisis.
yeah, exactly. And like I always praise the book Still Like an Artist, because in that book he talks about all these different kind of things as well. Where he says that like if you start now, like there's no audience for you, you know. So this is when you can freestyle and experiment and do things your own way and learn what you're comfortable and confident in. Because if you do that, if you start like thinking about it now, you're never going to progress. But yeah, in terms of like teaching style, so how do you like plan your lessons and stuff? Do you feel like you're a pretty meticulous planner, or do you just kind of like go with the flow?
I think you can't be too meticulous, only because there's so much that you have to plan that if you spend too much time planning, you're going to lose sight of what you're doing. Because like right now, I'm teaching about 15 lessons a week. Like obviously, alhamdulillah, like the where I am right now, the workload is a lot easier than it is in the UK. The work life balance is a lot better. So I teach about 15 lessons a week, and I would plan during the weekend for the week to come. So I would already have a rough idea as to what I want to teach them, but then I'd start to plan, okay, what's my progress for this week? What do I want the kids to achieve by the end of the week? And then how am I going to get them to that? So depending on the topic that we're doing. So I love giving students a lot of exposing them to a lot of to a lot of stimuli, sorry. So
Yeah.
making sure that they can tackle this single topic in many different ways. So usually during my first lesson, if we've got like a main topic that we're discussing or a theme, that one lesson will be generally it will be the students telling me what they know. So I'd form discussions around it, form debates around it, get them to just think creatively about whatever topic this may be. Then, if we've got a set text that they need to look into, we'll look into that. Then we'll need to analyze that text in more detail. So generally, the more that you teach, the more you'll start to have a routine in your mind already. So I feel like at the beginning, some teachers to plan one lesson, it will take them an hour, 2 hours, maybe even more. And it's very easy. A lot of people got put off when they were doing their PGCE just because it took them a very long time to plan. But now if I've got a lesson coming up, I'll be able to plan something within 5 to 10 minutes. Like I'll have a rough idea. I already know where do I want to start, where do I want to get to.
And that does come with practice. It's interesting you mentioned stimuli as well, because I wanted to give you a bit more of a direct question that I felt like I struggled with when I was a student. Before we move on to working abroad and stuff, but yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do, as a lot of students don't, and a lot of people still don't know what they want to do in adulthood. Even when you're in the middle of a career that you're enjoying, you still have your eyes cast in other areas where you're like, I would like to dabble in that as well, as I know you do, and I do as well, as you know. So when I was in college, for example, so I finished secondary school. Like already in my GCSEs, I had my parents had a heavy influence on what I picked in my GCSEs, as most ethnic parents do, and that they literally practically picked it for me. Even though they gave me a lot of advice and guidance, at the end they still picked it for me.
Yeah.
And as they picked it for me, they wrote they like we had to pick it on like a paper, and so you can pick what GCSEs you want. They literally picked it for me. And at the end, it's funny because I feel like they picked the right things anyway. I did ICT, art, French, food tech,
You
and
know
then
what?
obviously all the compulsory things. But
it's-
at the end, it's funny because I enjoy all these things now.
Yeah.
Languages, art, food. So ICT, I'm a professional in now, so it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
How it works out.
No, it's funny you say that. Literally, just before we started recording this, I was actually tutoring a student, a cousin as well, and he's in year 9, and he's in the process of picking what he'd like to do for his GCSEs, and everything I was going through is like, no, my dad said no to that. My dad didn't like this
Yeah.
up. My dad didn't like this one. So
Yeah.
I kind of had to stop the conversation, and I go to him, you know what? I'm going to chat to your dad first, and then we'll come and form some sort. Because sadly, a lot of our parents seem to think that, oh, if my child goes and does business, what's that going to do for him? He's not going to become a businessman. Like, let's be real, yeah. And I hope that if there are any students who end up listening to this, let's be real. Your GCSEs, apart from English, math, science, and maybe one other subject which you decide to dedicate yourself to, the rest don't really matter. Like, no one's actually going to ask you, oh, what did you get in geography, by the way? Unless you actually decide to go and do geography later on in life.
You mean the grades don't matter? Let's be
Yeah,
clear. Because the experience
yeah.
matters.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly. The grade itself doesn't matter. What you get at the end, it doesn't really matter unless it's something that you're actually going to go into properly. Because it's just, I think our parents they've been led to believe that you can only make success from 2 or 3
Certain
subjects.
topics. Yeah. So like, let me continue on from that. So then what happens is I didn't enjoy half of those things. So I really failed at a couple of those, even though like looking back now, like this should have been my bread and butter. I like did well in art and all the core topics, but in like ICT, French, food tech, somehow I managed. Like, ICT, I managed to scrape a pass, even though it was real dirt easy, you know.
Yeah.
And then French and food tech, I failed drastically. I got like E's or something, even though these should have been something very easy for me.
Yeah.
Like food tech, I was coming up with like you had to make a dish yourself, and then you had to like evaluate it and analyze it. Even though like this should have been my bread and butter, I literally bread and butter. But I was like I was like, obviously I come from a relatively poor background in terms of England anyway, so I didn't have money to go and buy ingredients for all these things, so that kind of hindered me in a way. But if I really wanted to, I could have probably sorted it out, but I didn't really care that much because of like my dislike for the topic. I liked cooking food, but I didn't want to be writing about it.
You're right.
So then I wouldn't buy the ingredients. So there was literally like a storeroom in the back. So my teacher would have to pull out the like spare ingredients, like from her own use or from other people, and give them to me, and then I had to make a dish out of the spare ingredients. I had to make a dish out of the spare ingredients and then evaluate it and analyze it. And that was literally the GCSE.
So that's like the equivalent to the spare PE kit, yeah? Where teachers like,
here's the food version of it.
Here's one I made earlier. You just grab something from the...
Here's some cauliflower, here's some caster sugar, and make something out of it. And then obviously I didn't have readily access to the internet either, so I couldn't go and research dishes and stuff. And then with French, oh man, my teacher just made me hate the topic. I just didn't like her.
Yeah,
she's always going on about Mohammed. I was like, that's not my name, mate. Like, but I just really hated the topic, learning the grammar and stuff behind it. Even though, and like because it was so regimented back then, it's like they gave me like a vocab list and I had to go memorize 20 words every single week, which is a good thing. Like when I look back at it, but like I hated the grammar side of it, and like I just didn't really enjoy it because from my mind, from the beginning, I never picked that topic, so I didn't want to do well in it.
You had no initial passion coming into it.
Exactly. So I failed that, and then I was also like quite rebellious in my later secondary school years. So I kind of like just scraped the pass in my English and maths, which is funny because English is something that I was really passionate about as well, and the teachers praised me for it. But yeah, and maths was just like I didn't enjoy it, but I was actually decent at it. But then it went to A levels. I had limited GCSEs, so I wasn't able to pick like the wide variety of A levels, and I wasn't confident in myself to go and like really dispute things. So if like a college or sixth form would tell me like this is the only subject you can do, I'd be all right. I'll just accept
just settle for it.
Yeah, and I didn't like raise it with my parents or anything. And then obviously that continued on to like I failed that as well because I didn't really enjoy those topics. And then like after like the second year of college, I was like, all right, I need to finally get my act together, So I ended up like doing a BTech in science, and like that was ended up being harder to me than the A levels were because like the teacher was just meticulous because she was like her main goal was like my BTech students are not going into university looking like getting with that reputation that BTech students have, like they're not going into university like inferior to people that have A levels. So it's funny because I did that, and like she was extra hard on me because I came from A level, first year A level, and then she was like, "You're the one with the A level, so surely you should know what you're doing." And like for some reason, she just expected very high things of me, which obviously is good from a teacher, but she pushed it on me in such a way that I just really despised it. So, but I still
Yeah.
worked hard, and like I finished the whole course, and I managed to achieve like good grades in the BTech and get to uni. And then when I got to uni, and I saw like there were other people that had A levels, and like they just seemed like they didn't know half the stuff I knew about like sciences and stuff, which is funny. But like when I was finishing my college year in BTech, which is college in America, that's like the later years of high school before you go to college.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at all. I had no idea. And I felt like the teachers didn't set me up either in such a way because they never mentioned personal statements and stuff until like when it came down to like the UCAS deadline, which is like the deadline for applying for universities.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think of what other options there would be out there, you know? So like with physiotherapy, which is what I was planning to do at the time, because I wanted to get into some kind of like sports team or something, because I was passionate about football. With physiotherapy, you generally have to do some kind of placements at some kind of physio therapy studio clinic,
Yeah.
sorry. And like that was the case for a lot of like medical kind of related areas, and they didn't mention any of that in college. They didn't even think about mentioning it to us. I don't think they just wanted us to get through the year and just finish, you know. So like how do you set up your students, and like how was your experience in terms of your experience as a student and now your experience as a teacher setting other kids up?
See what you said there about that teacher, that BTech science teacher that put you off. See, for me, that it really frustrates me listening to that because I always think to myself, I don't want to be the teacher that puts off a student from my subject. I'd rather be the teacher that shows the student that there's actually something in the subject. I want to provide students with substance. I want them to come into the subject and to actually look forward to going in there because they feel like I know the benefit of this. I know what I can actually take from this, and I know how is that's going to support me in the future. So yeah, I've had teachers in the past that have put me off certain things, and I think when I take my own personal experiences, like I think again, me going into English, I'd have to say as much as I enjoyed the subject, me enjoying it was only because my teachers expressed their passion to me. If they came into the classroom and they just looked down on us and just showed us that, I'm just here, I just got to do what I need to do, and then you lot are going to get out of this class, go to your next lesson, I don't think I would have developed that passion for English that I do have right now. So I feel like it's amazing to think how much of an influence a teacher has on a child's path in life, like what they actually decide to go and dedicate themselves to. So I think as a teacher, as I like to give my students opportunities. I like to give my students chances. I want them to find what they like. And English gives me a chance to delve into that a lot more because we've got a range of different themes that we're dealing with, a range of different topics. So, sometimes you find certain students, they might resonate with one thing over another thing. So if I can find that thing, I feel like with every single student that I deal with, I want to find that one thing that pushes them. I want to find that trigger. And once I find that trigger, I'm like, okay, I've done my part. Now it's time to pass them on to the next person who can push them even further. So go on.
Question: when you say find that trigger, for example, sometimes you might have found the trigger, but then later on they find another passion that and they see that initial passion as totally something they don't like anymore. So, like, how do you like? What does it take for you to say, all right, this is it for you? Like, this is something that I think you can do as a career.
No, and it's fine for them to change their mind. It's totally fine. I'm not expecting them to view English as their career choice. I know it's very difficult to convince parents that they want that a kid wants to do English. Even me myself, when I decided to choose English, it was very very hard for me to convince my parents that there's actually a future in this. This is something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that I can see myself building a career with. So with my students, I'm a strong believer in doing something, finding the balance of I enjoy this and also I can make a career out of it. So, and that's where the problem comes into it, because I don't want to be the type of person that if I'm going around telling students, no, this subject is pointless, it's not going to get you anywhere. Well, what am I really doing as a teacher? So we're meant to be facilitators and helping students, tap into their strengths rather than pushing them away from something which can potentially make success for them, like they can make a success of.
So how? Because obviously you've worked in different levels of schooling. In terms of when you're working with like higher education, in terms of like secondary school, for example, what kind of things do you do or say to your students to influence or like their decisions in what they want to do in the next step? Or when I say influence, I mean in a positive way, obviously. But yeah.
I think it's important to to expose students to what is available for them. I think you often get students that they've always just had this one-dimensional view of what's good and what's not, and sadly, that tends to stem from parents. If it's not being a doctor, if it's not being an engineer, then that's it. You've got nothing else to go into. There's nothing else that. So I think by exposing students to what's available, I'm able to, I'm able to influence them and just lead them towards something that will be better suited for them. So in terms of what I actually say to them directly, I love having these conversations with students. What are you actually into? Well, what do you notice about your personality? What do you want from a job? When you picture yourself in a career, what do you picture? And
Right.
sometimes that in itself would help you to understand what is the child actually suited to.
Yeah. So, like, what's the common responses? For me, I imagine if I was a teacher and I asked that, a lot of kids will probably not be like, I don't know. So, like, what do you say when they say, I don't know? Like,
Okay. Like for example, just again, I'm going to refer back to the kid that I was tutoring just before we started this. I did ask him that same question. I asked him, "So what do you want to do?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm not too sure." And then eventually we got to the point of realizing that again, this it was just a 1 hour conversation. So we got to the point of realizing the thing that he actually sees himself doing is something practical. And he told me how much he enjoys doing design and technology. So I told him, you do know there's a career in that. So we looked at degrees related to that field. So I think tap into what do they enjoy about studying? What do they enjoy? Is it writing? Okay, let's look at written subjects. Let's look at subjects that would require you to use analytical skills. Let's look at subjects that would require you to look at different texts and then think about how you can respond to those texts. Or maybe I prefer being creative. I prefer drawing. I prefer making things. So I think everybody has something that they enjoy, and thankfully we do live in a world where there is a career for everything. I don't know if that's a big statement to make.
no, I agree. I agree. If you want to do something, I feel like this is the best time to do whatever you want to do,
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
if,
you can make something of it. So yeah, asking those questions and tapping into their interests. And sometimes kids haven't been exposed to enough things to know what it is that they are interested in. So if you realize that this kid doesn't actually have much that they're interested in, then that raises a whole new issue. Now it's okay. Now let's go back and actually expose these kids to these things. Show them what is available for them.
I think that's very important. That's what I tried to tell my siblings or anyone that asked me about graphic design advice. I'm like, graphic design isn't one thing. There's thousands of careers within graphic design that are totally different from each other.
Yeah.
So it's very important to, like you say, expose them to that stimuli. So we've been talking about this a lot. I still have a lot of questions for you, but time is running out. So we'll quickly move on to working abroad and how you've found working abroad and the different cultures and also different teaching experiences. So what made you want to go work abroad?
I think working abroad, the only reason why I want to work abroad, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's the work to life balance. The salary is a lot better. The packages that you get over here, you actually feel like the job that you do, you're getting your money's worth for your job. Now, obviously, as a teacher, it's a massive taboo to speak about the money. But let's be realistic, man. We're all here to build up futures for ourselves. So where I am right now, the salary that I'm getting is a lot better than what I would have been getting in the UK. The housing has been provided for me, which is a massive bonus. Obviously, somebody that's living in London, the rent prices in London, and the amount that you save up at the end of the month is just, you don't really have much to build up your foundations for the future. So don't get me wrong, I enjoy teaching the students in the UK a lot more than I enjoy teaching the kids here. But
Really?
yes,
Tell
definitely.
us about that.
Okay, the reason being, I feel like I can relate to the kids in the UK a lot more. Teaching the kids over here, it's a lot of the kids that I'm teaching, they're very, very rich kids, mashallah. Like they're very, very rich kids. So that presents its own challenges, and you're trying to motivate a child who knows that whether I do well at school or not, my life has already been settled for me. It's already there. Everything's ready. They're either go and join the family business and they've already got a ton of money, mashallah, available to them, or the second option is let's join the army.
Mm.
And the army, if you hear about the amount that they're getting in the army on a monthly basis, and let's say a kid who's just finished, they finished year 13 and they've gone to join the army, they're earning about £5,000 worth a month.
No way.
Honestly, and this is just as a fresh, like I've just entered into the army.
Right.
So you can
You
you
know
can
what? It's funny because like you say that, but if it was a real war to occur, like I guess like that money is a real like balance. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of them do that, man. Like I was speaking to some of the kids, and I was like, "What do you guys want to do later on?" I'm telling you, I think 85% of them said we're going to join the army. And I was like, why? Oh, Mister, I'll make a lot of money. I'm going to get the stars on my shoulder, and
Mm,
that was their motivation. So you
mm,
you can see now the differences. Like when I'm dealing with the kids in the UK, there's
mm.
there's I feel like there's more substance to it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like you'd prefer to teach younger students in those kind of countries because they're not as influenced by worldly like benefits and stuff, or do you feel like it's just like a general thing that they're like that from childhood?
No, I don't think they're like that from childhood. I feel because it's interesting you said that because I've not really thought about that. But yeah, because when I was in Saudi, I was working with primary school kids, whereas here I'm working with secondary school kids. So the ones
Mm,
that were in Saudi, I think I was able to mold them a lot more.
mhm.
Like or not necessarily mold them, but I was able to show them that
Influence their thinking.
yeah, there's more to life. There's more to life than just I've got a maid who makes all my food for me. I've got a driver who comes and picks me up from school every single day. Like I was able to just guide them to think a bit more beyond their bubble. Whereas the kids that are in secondary school, they've for as long as they've been in secondary school, they already had their mind set on this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to join the army or I'm going to join my dad's business, and that's
Mhm.
it. And you know what? So be it, man. If they feel like Alhamdulillah is
That
it,
works for them.
yeah, yeah, for real. I'm
As long
I'm
as that doesn't mean they're on a bad path.
yeah, I'm not the one to say that it's wrong. I can't say that it's wrong because
Mhm.
if their families have set it up for them and they are in a position where they can just take on what's already been done for them,
Mhm.
then so be it. But then again, as a teacher, it presents newer challenges. I'm having to
Mhm.
motivate kids who see school as a place to socialize rather than a place to actually learn and get grades from.
Right. That's interesting. I've got one like random question for you. Do
Hmm.
you ever feel like you should challenge yourself to teach somewhere where, for example, like some financially impoverished country in Africa or something,
It's
like
it's
full time? Have you
okay.
thought of that?
Maybe not full time, but it's funny you say that because I've literally got this tab open of an organization called Inspiring Teachers, where they take teachers every summer and they take them to a less economically developed country and get them to work with the teachers there to help those teachers develop and to also just deal with the
Mhm.
students. I was actually researching into that yesterday just because I wanted to have, I did want to get a sense of that.
Mm.
So yeah, I would love to try it. I would love to try it. I've always wanted to go and work in Kenya.
Yeah.
Obviously we've got family there, so I always thought to myself, I'd love to go and work there, and it's a beautiful country too. I'd love to work in Malaysia one day. So yeah, I do want to. I'm not sure when that will be, and I'm not sure if it will happen, but I definitely want to go and experience it, even if it's like a summer, just volunteering at a school or something. I definitely would love to just to
Mhm.
see what it's like working with minimal resources and working with kids who have ambitions.
Yeah.
It's very different. That's the thing. We fail to understand how, yeah, I might be teaching the same content to these kids that I'm teaching to the kids in the UK, but the types of kids that I'm dealing with are very different, and the way that I have to deliver my lessons will be different. And the conversations I have, the relationships that I have with them are always like they're in contrast with one another.
It's interesting because like that makes you a more like rounded teacher, I think. But it's also like where do you where do you want to be in the future in terms of actual teaching? Are you happy with teaching those kind of students on a regular basis for a long time?
You know what? If I'm being honest with you, if the UK had better pay packages, if the teachers weren't worked as hard as they are, and that's I'm not a slack. I don't slack. I'm not the type of person that slacks in my work. I'm not trying to say
Yeah.
that I want it easy. No, but
Yeah, you gotta work 50 hours instead of 100.
yeah, that's it. That's all I'm saying, man. There needs to be a sense of balance. If you knew the troubles that the teachers in the UK have been going through this year alone, this
Yeah, I can
academic
imagine,
year,
man.
it's been one thing after another. Suddenly, a document will come out. The government will release a document of this needs to happen in this way. Okay, teachers, we just need to adapt to it. So that helps you grow as a teacher, but overall, I don't know if it's the leadership in the UK in general, but me personally, and even all the other UK teachers that I'm with here right now, my colleagues, like the school that I'm in, 90% of the teachers are British teachers. So it's similar position to mine, and I'm pretty sure if you speak to every single one of them and ask them which one of you would actually want to go back to the UK and work, I can guaranteed 95% of them will tell you there's no way I'm going back to work in the UK, because once you felt your worth as a teacher elsewhere and you feel a work-life balance. Like right now, I do not take any work home. I come back
Yeah,
home from work, I'm relaxed. I have time to actually spend doing other things.
yeah.
Whereas in the UK, you feel so invested and so immersed in your work that for some people it becomes their life. They go in 6 a.m. in the morning, they leave 6 p.m. in the evening.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, man.
Like before, like a few years ago, I was writing a book, and I kind of had I kind of had a few characters in mind who were in teaching positions, and I wanted to explore how they teach. But every now and then, I go back to that book I was writing and think about it, and I'm just like I think I would need to research a lot more into the characters, because I had one teacher who's like he's one of those guys that works from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then he's like basically like a hero kind of thing. Like he's a huge positive influence on the kids, but like realistically, is
Yeah.
that feasible in London? And like how what kind of effect did that have on the character? It's interesting. Well, how has it been working during this pandemic then in a foreign country, basically?
Yeah, it's been hard, man, because even at the start of this academic year, as well, like I was actually due to move back to Saudi Arabia, but because of the pandemic and the issues surrounding flight restrictions, I wasn't able to go. So that alone had a massive effect on where I was.
Where
So
you are?
yeah, so as a result of that, I decided to just do some agency work. So I just supply teaching. So one day I'd be told to go to this school, another day, like every day was just a different school that I was working at. And then thankfully, this opportunity came up to move to Qatar. So I went for it. And even then, I was still very hesitant up until the very last day. I think I was telling you guys as well, up until the very last day, I was still unsure. Am I actually going to go or am I not going to go? So I think one
Right.
thing that COVID has caused is a lack of stability, a lack of security. So
Yeah.
that's one aspect. In terms of the actual teaching side of things, again, it's been very difficult because one thing we've been told not to use the word catching up with students, not to use the word we need to get to where we need to get back to where we need to be, because we don't want kids to feel like they've been punished for something that isn't their fault.
Yeah.
So it's been very difficult trying to monitor where students are at, because some students they come from wealthier backgrounds or they come from more advantaged backgrounds. Their parents are very supportive. So during this pandemic, they would have still been exposed to a lot, and they would have had content-rich experiences,
Right.
even through a pandemic. But then there's others, sadly, because there's been a pandemic, they've done nothing at all. There's been quite a few tests that have been done on these kids. Some of these kids, their reading ages have decreased massively just because of the gap they've had in their learning. So you can imagine, as a teacher, it's already very difficult to differentiate when you've got certain students that are a lot more able than others, and now you've come to, oh, I've got so much more to differentiate. I don't know where these students are at. So that's been very challenging. We've had We've had online learning in some parts. We've had face to face. Like since I've arrived in Qatar, I think I've not had a full class any day. The most I've had in any of my lessons has been 15 students, and even that is on a good day. So, like if I say on Thursday I had 3 lessons, all 3 lessons together, I think I taught about 6 kids face to face.
Right.
So you can see where the issue is. The issue is how much can you actually support these kids when they're online? One day they're in school, one day they're not. They're having issues. It's just been a lack of clarity throughout.
Interesting. So I'm going to wrap up the episode here. But before that, you do tutoring work, and I know that you want to take on more students at the moment. So where can people find you?
You're really gonna make me say the name, aren't you?
Absolutely.
All right. So as much as MSM writes, which he does his poetry on MSM writes, MSM also tutors. So if you want to go and look through my tutoring services, you can go on MSM Tutors on Instagram and contact me there. I'm currently taking on Key Stage 3 and 4 students. I'm doing online. Obviously, just because I'm based in Qatar. So yeah, inshallah, if that's something that you're interested in for your siblings, for any of your family members, please get at me. I provide all subjects at primary school level and English as a specialist subject at secondary level.
Okay, so it's been your boy Mohammed Imam from the Bluprint, joined by MSM Podcast today. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We talked about education and how it influences creativity and working abroad and the different experiences that you can experience with such a different environment and different way of life. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Go find him and support his creative work as well as his tutoring business. And thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for having me.